Actually, you know what? I didn't fit in eating. I'm gonna eat some of these almonds while I'm waiting for you. Oh, there's your question. All right, right on. So your question about your current relationship. You've had some problems lately. You're wondering if you'll be okay, or if the reason you're having issues is because of things you can control. All right, I think maybe you meant to say you can't control. Um, so Jamie, that's a really fair question. Yeah. Okay, good. We're on the same page as far as that can't. Um, so one thing I want to talk about before we get into this is free will, because when it comes to relationships, free will strongly influences what happens next. Um, it's about whether the two of you want to work through the heat of the moment and whether it's worth it. Um, that will strongly influence anything I say after this point. So I'm going to go ahead and pull some cards for you, but at the same time, just a quick reminder that your decisions like really matter. It doesn't matter what fate has to say about it. And also just a quick reminder that take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm just a jackass with a bunch of cards. So, if I tell you to break up, you can feel free to ignore me. But at the same time, if I tell you to stay together and it's abusive, please ignore me. Call someone. So, all right, let's see what we got. Um, Let me just get a bit more light going here. So when cards hit the table, by the way, my hands just do it. I don't have control over it. I've abandoned all formal patterns in order to let intuition move through. And so when the cards come down, I have to spend a little bit of time figuring out why did they come out this way and what does it all mean. One thing that strikes me right away is that we have to talk about the judgment card. Judgment, even though the word for is judgment that we're using here, it's not specifically um, about the notion of a judge telling, determining a right and a wrong. Rather, it's usually about the your blessings finally coming to fruition, all the hard work kind of paying off. That idea. Um, usually, usually. In this case, I feel like it's something a little different, though. I feel a little bit like we're talking about a couple of people who don't appreciate how their emotions are tainting their own thinking. It's a weird thing, a relationship, especially when you start to care about someone. Everything they do makes you angrier than it would have otherwise because you care what they think. So when they disagree with you, it's hard to not take that personally. In daily life, if someone disagrees with you, who gives a crap? But when it's someone you really, really love and they disagree with you, it might be the end of the world. Because it's not just about it's not just about really caring what they think, but realizing that you might have to live with someone who thinks differently, and you might have to live a life where the opposite of what you believe is the way you live. And that's scary. It's terrifying. And I don't know why I'm talking about this, Jamie. This just kind of it came in, and it was like really important that we dive into that notion of how terrifying it is when someone we care about has a different opinion than us. But it's kind of a big deal. So I don't know. That's at the heart of things here. Um, there's two things going on. I would normally be inclined to say this is her, this is him, but there's something more to it. I don't know. I'm trying to understand what I'm looking at because it's something feels off and I can't put my finger on it. Something feels outside of my normal experience, I guess is what I want to say. Something unique's going on that I can't put my finger on. I'm going to expand on this a little bit. Oh, that explains a lot, actually. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, part of your fighting might be about money, which is about the most cliche thing I could possibly say about a relationship, frankly. Everybody knows that everybody fights about money. Um, but there's a sense of like, I talked about worry a lot. That worry is going to have a lot to do with someone wishing that they could have a career path, but worrying about the other person's approval of that career path. That's some harsh stuff. Um, and I'm sorry, you said some stuff in chat. I only just noticed. Oh, I hit it right on the head. Well, I'm really glad to hear that. I'm just talking, man. I don't know. You're just a name on the screen. I can't even read your body language, so I'm really glad to hear that. So, um, but anyway, yeah, it's there's definitely this notion of concern regarding if I said what I really wanted to do with my life, they would laugh at me. They would think it was ridiculous. That real sense of like they wouldn't get it. And so to that end, they as a person, they're really shoving themselves down in favor of the other person's perspective on the world because they're like they're freaked out that they'll be judged and not in relation to the judgment card specifically. This is another thing, but just that they will be mocked. There's this fear of being mocked and of not being permitted to be who they are. Now, I don't know who this is, for the record. I don't have a clear clarity on this being you or the other person. My first inclination is it's the other person, but I preambled this whole thing with being talking about how wrong I can be about that sometimes. So that's a person though. And the other person is starting their career. Well, not starting their career. That's wrong. They're starting a new phase, and there's this sense of them being like normally if this was reversed, this is a very funny card. Funny in the respect that like this is a person who's walking on slippery soil, blindfolded with ropes around them, swords everywhere, very, very dangerous, except that you don't see that they're holding the rope themselves. And if they just dropped it, they could pull off the blindfold and step on the dry spots. They're fine. They're just creating their own problem by not looking. But in your case, um, it's something else. We're looking at someone who is refusing to acknowledge the problems, uh, the work problems. Um, so this is something that the other person's perceiving very, very clearly. Um, they're starting a new phase in their career. I don't know why. Why is that? Why am I talking about career all of a sudden? But it definitely we're talking about career. Um, eh, and so they're starting a new phase in their career, and they're completely ignoring the problems, the dangers that they're facing in that career. That those dangers I don't understand exactly. It has something to do with um, uh, possibly office politics or a misunderstanding of the thing that really kind of feels right to me is the fact that they think this is going to last forever. They have a sense of where this is all going, and it's actually going in a completely different direction, and they may end up laid off or something. I don't know. But anyway, this person has clarity on their current career and really doesn't want to do it. They want to do something completely different. This person is like ready to go. They're happy where they are and feel like they're on the right trajectory, but they're ignoring some basic facts about that. And this person understands it. That's the schism. I just noticed you updated chat. What'd you say here? We both started a new job last year at the same place. Oh, well, that would explain a lot, actually. Jamie, by the way, I appreciate these little affirmations, but you don't have to tell me anything if you don't want. Please go ahead and share anything you feel comfortable sharing, but at the same time, I just want to let you know that you don't have to do that to make this work. The important things that I tell you, stuff that helps you, not that I'm comforted by this, okay? But having said that, I really do appreciate that. Um, so that's the situation as it's reading to me at the moment. And so that's a description of a mess. That doesn't help you necessarily. You probably see yourself in one of these roles immediately. And if that's the case, it's important for you to use a little bit of understanding um, towards the other person. So, for instance, this person here who really doesn't want to be where you are and wants to be somewhere that they don't want to admit, possibly even to themselves, for fear of shame. You know, they want to be somewhere else. This person sees things clearly, uh, and doesn't expect to be listened to, has already voiced their concerns, and those concerns have been ignored. Uh, but they feel a lot of compassion in this direction. Over here, this is someone who is supremely confident in their ability at work and really thinks they've got things figured out. And they need to uh, toss them a bone. Like just say, hey, you know what? Uh, you ever feel like doing something crazy? And then be super supportive of the crazy thought. Because this person's language is the language of certainty. And that's really, really in a relationship. The language of certainty does not allow for disagreement. You know, we started off, I guess I gave this big speech at the beginning about worrying about what another person feels and thinks in a relationship. Well, this person is a source of fear for themselves as well as the other person. They talk with certainty, so anybody who says anything that's not already aligned with their current thinking is going to be harshly questioned and badgered and put down. But at the same time, they're in danger themselves because as soon as something comes along that breaks their worldview, they will crumble as a person. They are fragile, fragile, fragile. That comforting sense of certainty is fragility. That's why they say that vulnerability, making yourself vulnerable, is strength, because that means you're flexible. You're willing to accept that, hey, I don't know everything. Maybe I'm a complete idiot. Um, that's really good. Jamie, I have no idea if anything I've said made sense. I want you to ask me to expand on something if you want expansion, or if you're clear, just let me know you're clear. Um, And I want to remind you too that this is being recorded, and whenever I'm done, YouTube processes it, takes about an hour, and then it's a part of my channel. So the strong feeling I'm getting right now is that you should both, even if you think this is complete BS, everything I've said, watch the recording later as a couple and argue about which one is which. And and even if I am just completely wrong about all of this, my sense, regardless of how right or wrong I am, is that the discussion about it will be like nothing you have ever experienced as a couple. The discussion, this conversation about this, even if I'm right, if I'm dead right or I'm dead wrong, doesn't matter. That conversation will be a new way of talking to each other in a way that you've never had the opportunity to before. And that will be power, because you'll be able to talk to each other like that for the rest of your lives. It's going to open up a lot of doors to be able to have that conversation. So, having said that, man, let me know. Let me know in chat how I'm doing, because I'm always curious. Um, and it's super rare. I mean, okay. All right, Jamie, thank you for that in chat. I appreciate that. I'm going to wrap up because I see this, but you know what? If there's any point you want me to expand on, go right ahead. Acer Razor, how you doing, man? If you have any questions, ask me, as I am just wrapping up with Jamie here, and so this would be a really good time for you to ask a question, as specific as you like. And it doesn't have to be, by the way, it does not have to be about you and your personal life. So if you want to ask about aliens or about doomsday or whatever, you go right ahead, because we'll dive right in. I have no fear.